Hello, I'm Odess with the Access Control Executive Brief. Our next episode will examine what makes organizations capable of turning this vision into reality. We'll investigate the technical foundations, operational capabilities, and expertise needed to transform security from protection alone to a platform for broader value creation. The ability to do more.
A little about my background at Gallagher. I've been in the security industry for 23 years. I started as a security technician, moving on to a project management role, and I've been with Gallagher for 17 years. I've had multiple roles with Gallagher. I started as a technical account manager, which I had that role for about 10 years, looking after Queensland, Northern Territory, and Papua New Guinea in Australia. Then I moved into the national technical manager role for 5 years for Australia, and now I'm covering Asia Pacific, India, Middle East, and Africa in my role, which currently is technical director. With my role, I'm responsible for creating technical strategy for the region. I support our sales teams, particularly the technical representatives in the region, help with collaboration between our global teams, and I identify strategic integrations and partnerships. A big part of my role, though, is working with our R&D teams and representing the market needs across Asia Pacific and IMEA to drive our product development needs. The technical landscape in security has evolved a fair bit in recent years. One of the standouts that I've seen is all around cloud. We've seen a big trend towards systems and applications moving towards the cloud, and even more recently, lots of those actually moving back to on-premise, which has created a favored architecture of hybrid deployments in many cases. What that means is that customers have a lot more choice, and systems and implementations tend to be more complex than they ever used to be. The other standout item here, I would say, would be that cybersecurity is now at the forefront rather than being vertical specific. Everybody cares about it. More people understand the importance of it than they ever used to. Data protection and data privacy is a major concern to lots of organizations. There's been surveys of CEOs from, say, Forbes 100 companies, and overwhelmingly they say that being hacked is the thing that keeps them up at night. So we're seeing that as just an expectation these days. All things around cybersecurity, data protection, data privacy, data sovereignty. What that means is that IT teams have to have a seat at the table, and that's really important too, because integrations have become very commonplace. That in itself adds more complexity to deployments, but it really does necessitate those IT teams being involved to create those connections between systems. Yeah, the IT team's involvement is paramount really for a number of reasons. They're crucial in the buying process for, with vendor selection in the first place. These are systems that typically sit on their networks. They operate on their infrastructure, often on their servers and workstations that are deployed, or mobile devices. So just from a system deployment perspective, they're really important. If they're not satisfied, the system's often not going in. There are exceptions to that in certain kinds of security environments where they might be completely standalone networks and infrastructure, but in most cases, it's their infrastructure, so they need to be satisfied. And if there's a want from the business to create integrations between systems, the IT teams often need to facilitate that. They need to provision the networks for it. There might be firewalls in place. They need to approve the means, the method, and medium of the integration. So they're often doing their own cybersecurity reviews, not just on the system in the first place, but on the actual integration that's been put in place. So we're seeing a big trend where the uptick of desire for integrations between systems is like a hockey stick curve. It's an exponential rise. customers are looking to derive much more value from their security system than just security like they used to. So that's being a real shift. And to facilitate those integrations, because of the infrastructure and because of the cybersecurity vetting, the IT teams need to be involved, or often they either don't happen at all, or it's a very difficult, time-consuming and costly process. Yeah, to leverage the advanced technologies available today, organizations really should be involving multiple departments. I think that's probably the main thing. Getting IT involved, as I said before, is paramount. Cybersecurity reviews and deployment, it helps to avoid delays. But also having skilled project managers makes that project go a lot smoother as well. I would suggest also leaning on trusted advisors, utilizing security consultants to help distill customer requirements, to advise them what actually meets their needs, and ensuring that they're selecting products that are future-proofed for 7 to 10 years and support the actual integrations that they want to achieve. Because if the systems that they have, really on either side, don't support the means to actually integrate them, then it's going to be a tough job. We're seeing organisations want to integrate their physical and digital systems, and overwhelmingly that's to implement single sign-on. So it's to utilise the customer's existing identity provider for single sign-on to all systems with existing credentials and multi-factor auth policies, but also to utilise that identity provider for role-based access. In addition to that, it's about sharing the physical credentials or mobile credentials that are typically used for the access control system, but sharing those credentials on other systems out in the field. So, it could be things like vending machines or vehicles or machinery. The list goes on and on. But the idea there is to absolutely make use of the identity provider, all of the security policies implemented around those credentials, and share those credentials across multiple systems so that there aren't any insecure credentials out there and everything's managed centrally by the one system. It does require system integrations to do this. And again, it points to some of the needs that I talked about earlier, but ultimately it does result in higher security and more convenience for the actual end users. I can think of many examples in this case. I think the best example here where the business got together with multiple departments in a room and looked to solve business-wide problems, not just security problems. Often the security system can be used to help manage much more than just security. At Gallagher, we call this unlock more. I can think of many examples that sort of demonstrate this. Some of those could be, managing the governance, risk and compliance policies that the business has. So, checking and enforcing qualifications, fatigue management, exposure rules, things like reconciling contractor invoicing against the actual hours that people spend on site, reducing full-time equivalent workforce hours by monitoring and controlling remote assets to avoid call-outs and guards driving around opening and closing facilities, or reducing energy bills through scheduling and automation, things like lighting and HVAC controls. Also managing safety risks with random drug and alcohol selection, vehicle safety, PPE checks, temperature checks, for example, which was prevalent obviously during COVID. Even things like controlling underground blasting and mining environments based on where people are. If there are people in unsafe areas, don't release the explosives. And generally things like business intelligence reporting, which is a particularly attractive to organizations post-COVID today with return to work programs, understanding space utilization. Are the spaces being used? Are they overutilized? Are they underutilized? Can they be repurposed? So these types of examples really span multiple vertical markets. And we love having conversations like that and asking the customer, tell us your problems, not not tell us your security problems, because it's not often obvious to customers that the physical access control system can play a part in solving those kinds of problems. We're seeing a lot of different trends in the security industry, but the biggest one that we're hearing the most about, you really can't go anywhere in the world without hearing about it these days, is all around AI or machine learning as well. You know, not all use cases from or applications from those that have jumped on the bandwagon quickly are all that helpful or practical in a security environment. One must be careful in automating too much in the security space with AI, because certain workflows, you know, really need to be 100% consistent and predictable. Machine learning specifically can learn from data and it assists with things like predictive analytics, looking for anomalies or unusual behavior in the system. So there's a lot of interesting applications in that space. Large language models are really good for interacting with content, especially for querying things like documentation in a natural way, like your chatbots, for example, asking questions about how to do things. But really, agentic AI is where I see the most potential moving forward. You know, that's able to integrate with the AI's flexible, human-like reasoning with the rigid, mission-critical workflows that exist in our kinds of security environments. Legacy systems can cause all sorts of frustrations, and it really can be challenging to replace those aging systems or to try to make those aging systems integrate with the current generation products that the customer might also have. It really is a frustration, I think, of customers in particular, because they often don't actually have the intel on the age of their equipment or the risks associated with it. From a system integration perspective too, legacy systems often mean that integration actually isn't possible at all, or maybe it is possible but not in a secure way, or it is possible but in a really, you know, antiquated way that is very complex to implement and maintain. At Gallagher, we provide different tools and means to help with this kind of stuff. We've got a security health check tool that identifies potential security risks. It lists warranty risks and provides improvement recommendations. We've also got a warranty report in the product that identifies hardware manufacturer dates and identifies hardware that is out of warranty. And we have upgrade tools. So if you're replacing legacy equipment in Gallagher, in our command center product, you can actually pull the old product out of a panel, put the new one in, and do a click function basically in the software and move all of the configuration from the old hardware to the new in seconds, without doing any kind of manual configuration. Because the other pain that can happen with replacing old legacy hardware is just the time that it takes to traditionally do that changeover, and the downtime that can occur on site, and the security risks or inconvenience that might generate. So the more that we can all do to make that painless, the better for the customers, and the more impetus they'll have to actually upgrade the old legacy equipment. We also have recently manufactured a product or a range of products in the quick switch range, which are designed to be able to do hardware replacements of legacy controllers from competitor systems over to Gallagher in about 10 minutes per panel. So that's actually swapping the hardware out and putting a new one in 10 minutes. And the software configuration is all automated too. So, you know, all those things tend to help. Having a mixture of products on a system in a hybrid way, some old and some new, can have some pains where the new hardware is more capable than the old. But, you know, really that's just the reality with technology. Looking for a system that can actually support both the old and the new at the same time is very important for customers, because a customer doesn't want to get into the situation where they're forced to replace all of their old legacy hardware all at once. That would be, you know, very costly. So, we also find that more and more the cybersecurity risk associated with the old hardware and software are often actually the mechanism for change. It's the cybersecurity risks that often ring the greatest alarm bells. It might be with credentials, it might be with readers, it might be with the cryptography or data protection capabilities of the security controllers, the panels. Or it could be that the application software is just holding them back on their server environments, and so they can't upgrade that, and they have vulnerabilities on their software installations for the server or the workstation. So I think giving customers the intel on all of those kinds of risks, giving it to them early, and identifying warranty, plus making those kinds of changeovers and migrations really fast and painless and risk-free is the key to helping people move away from that legacy hardware and software. Would have to be around the proliferation of generative AI. Agentic AI has got the potential to intelligently orchestrate complex environments. It can blend adaptability with the precision that security operations need. It can enable systems that are smarter and more reliable, more secure, and much more human friendly. When that's done well with agentic AI, being able to understand the intent and pass that context on to other systems in a reliable, consistent, predictable way for automation, I think there's going to be a lot more possibilities, and the end result for operators and the general operations is going to be much greater than today, and the automations, the integrations are going to be much easier to achieve. So I think the future of AI and physical security is really around meaningful automation that balances that intelligence and predictability. It'll deliver real value. What I would really recommend is close alignment and collaboration with those other departments. This is especially around the involvement of the IT teams. They provide the infrastructure, they vet the security of the systems. They're really crucial at every step of the way, and they're intrinsic often in the enablement of system integrations. Another standout one would be human resources. Interfacing with HR systems is probably the most common kind of system interface that we see into a security system. That's probably moving more towards the identity providers, but onboarding and offboarding people from an HR system or some kind of payroll system, for example, is very commonplace. And so HR being in the room and really understanding what some of the benefits are to the business and helping the implementation of that is really key. That involvement also can play a part in shift synchronization. So if the system's doing things to raise alarm if someone off shift turns up to site or stays too long, for example, those kinds of things, that's all HR function stuff. The other one too, I would say, in many vertical markets would be health and safety personnel as well. That having a physical access control system to enforce organizational policies can increase or can provide immense benefits to customers. What we often see with this is that involving other teams tends to demonstrate much more value in the system itself, and that actually aids in capital for large projects when it can otherwise be a challenge. So when you find those other departments that are part of the process that are seeing value because it's providing functions for them and not just the security team, everything else goes very well. I would also say that having skilled having at least a skilled business analyst in the business is very helpful. Just again, distilling down those business requirements, functional and non-functional, working with all of those stakeholders is really important. And also a project manager, someone to actually work with the security integrators on the project, definitely helps. Involve those other departments in conversations around requirements. Lean on trusted advisors, security consultants, your system integrators, and the system vendor. They're all available to help. Engagement will lead to a solution that provides your business with more value and will result in smoother deployments that stay on time. And look to automation in your business. At Gallagher, we've got data that says operational inefficiencies can cost businesses upwards of 20 to 30% per year. We also know that 56% of our end users have strategies in place to boost efficiencies through their security system. And overwhelmingly, from what we're hearing, the number one operational efficiency that customers are deploying is automation. So in everything you do, I would absolutely recommend that you're making purchasing decisions that are capable of integrations and automation with other systems to create efficiencies. Whether you're going to adopt them today or in the future, it will be a very smart choice in your purchasing decision.
Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below and subscribe to ensure you don't miss our next episode. We'll discover how security can transcend traditional boundaries to become a true strategic enabler. Thank you for watching, and remember, let's go do more.